Do Stoics avoid pleasure? It's a question that has puzzled many and led to a common misconception about Stoic philosophy. While Stoicism is often associated with discipline and self-control, its teachings on pleasure are far more nuanced and insightful than a simple yes or no. In this video, we'll uncover the truth behind the Stoic approach to pleasure. From their distinction between fleeting indulgence and meaningful enjoyment, to the role of moderation, temperance, and virtue. We'll explore how the Stoics balance life's pleasures without losing sight of what truly matters. Whether you're a philosophy enthusiast or curious about how Stoic principles apply to modern life, this video will offer a fresh perspective on the relationship between pleasure and the pursuit of a fulfilling, virtuous existence. Let's dive in. Here are 5 unique topics for discussion. Exploring the diverse world of discussion topics. In the ever-evolving landscape of intellectual discourse, the ability to engage in thought-provoking discussions is a valuable skill. Whether you're in a classroom setting, a social gathering, or an online forum, having a repertoire of engaging topics can elevate the conversation and foster meaningful exchanges. In this article, we'll explore 5 unique discussion topics that can inspire insightful dialogues and expand your horizons. The ethics of artificial intelligence. As technology continues to advance, the integration of artificial intelligence, AI, into our daily lives has become increasingly prevalent. From virtual assistants to autonomous vehicles, AI has the potential to revolutionize how we live and work. However, this rapid progress has also sparked discussions around the ethical implications of AI. Delving into topics such as algorithmic bias, privacy concerns, and the potential impact on the job market can lead to thought-provoking debates on the responsible development and implementation of AI. The rise of sustainable living. In an era marked by growing environmental awareness, the concept of sustainable living has gained significant traction. Discussions around renewable energy, eco-friendly practices, and the circular economy can provide a platform to explore the intersection of individual choices, societal changes, and global initiatives. Exploring the challenges and opportunities presented by sustainable living can foster insightful exchanges on the role of individuals, governments, and businesses in creating a more sustainable future. The future of education. The education system has been undergoing a transformative period with the integration of technology, the emergence of alternative learning models, and the shifting demands of the job market. Discussing the potential of online learning, the role of experiential education, and the skills necessary for the workforce of the future can lead to lively debates on the evolving landscape of education and its impact on individual and societal development. The implications of globalization. Globalization has reshaped the world, bringing both opportunities and challenges. Exploring topics such as international trade, cultural exchange, and the impact of global events on local communities can generate thought-provoking discussions on the interconnectedness of the modern world. Examining the pros and cons of globalization, as well as the role of international organizations and national policies, can foster a deeper understanding of the complex dynamics shaping our global landscape. The intersection of science and spirituality. The relationship between science and spirituality has long been a subject of fascination and debate. Delving into discussions on the compatibility of scientific theories and religious or philosophical beliefs, the role of consciousness in the universe, and the potential for interdisciplinary collaboration can open up new avenues of exploration. These conversations can challenge preconceived notions, promote intellectual humility, and encourage a more holistic understanding of the human experience. By engaging in discussions around these diverse topics, individuals can broaden their perspectives, challenge their assumptions, and cultivate a deeper appreciation for the complexities of the world we inhabit. Whether you're seeking to expand your own knowledge or facilitate enriching dialogues, these 5 unique discussion topics offer a starting point for meaningful and thought-provoking exchanges. The Stoic perspective on pleasure. Stoicism, the ancient Greek philosophy, has long been associated with the idea of avoiding or minimizing pleasure. However, a closer examination of Stoic teachings reveals a more nuanced approach to the concept of pleasure. Stoics, in fact, did not completely shun pleasure, but rather sought to understand it within the broader context of a virtuous and fulfilling life. The Stoic conception of pleasure. Stoic philosophers, such as Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, recognize that pleasure is a natural and often necessary part of the human experience. They acknowledge that pleasure can be a valuable means of fulfillment and that it can play a positive role in our lives. However, Stoics also cautioned against the pursuit of pleasure as an end in itself, as they believed that true happiness and well-being could not be found solely in the pursuit of pleasure. The distinction between good and bad pleasure. Stoics made a clear distinction between what they considered good and bad forms of pleasure. Good pleasure, or eudaimonic pleasure, was seen as the pleasure that arises from the pursuit of virtue, wisdom, and the cultivation of a harmonious relationship with the natural order of the universe. This type of pleasure was viewed as intrinsically valuable and aligned with the Stoic ideal of living a life in accordance with reason and virtue. On the other hand, Stoics saw bad pleasure, or hedonic pleasure, as the kind of pleasure that arises from the pursuit of immediate gratification, sensual indulgence, or the satisfaction of base desires. This type of pleasure was seen as fleeting and often at odds with the pursuit of a virtuous and fulfilling life. The Stoic approach to pleasure. Stoics did not advocate for the complete avoidance of pleasure, but rather for a temperate and balanced approach. They believed that true happiness and well-being could only be found through the cultivation of virtue, wisdom, and a deep understanding of the nature of the universe and one's place within it. Stoics encouraged their followers to engage in activities and pursuits that brought about eudaimonic pleasure, such as the study of philosophy, the practice of self-reflection, and the cultivation of a harmonious relationship with others and the natural world. At the same time, Stoics advised their followers to be mindful of the potential for hedonic pleasures to lead to attachment, craving, and ultimately suffering. The pursuit of virtue and the role of pleasure. For Stoics, the ultimate goal was not the avoidance of pleasure, but the cultivation of a virtuous and fulfilling life. Pleasure was seen as a natural and often necessary part of this journey, but it was not to be pursued as an end in itself. Instead, Stoics believed that the pursuit of virtue, wisdom, and a harmonious relationship with the natural order of the universe was the true path to a life of lasting happiness and well-being. In this way, Stoics did not reject pleasure outright, but rather sought to understand it within a broader context of a life well lived. By cultivating a deep understanding of the nature of pleasure and its role in the pursuit of a virtuous life, Stoics aim to achieve a balanced and fulfilling existence, one that recognized the value of pleasure while also honoring the importance of wisdom, reason, and the cultivation of virtue. Stoicism and the pursuit of happiness. Stoicism and the pleasure dilemma. In the pursuit of happiness, the ancient philosophy of Stoicism has often been misinterpreted as a rejection of pleasure. However, the Stoics had a more nuanced view on the role of pleasure in the good life. While they recognized the importance of virtue and reason as the foundations of a fulfilling existence, they did not completely eschew the enjoyment of life's pleasures. The Stoics, led by influential thinkers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, advocated for a life of moderation and self-control. They believed that true happiness came from aligning one's actions and emotions with the natural order of the universe, rather than from the pursuit of external pleasures. This led some to conclude that Stoics avoided pleasure altogether, but this interpretation misses the complexity of their philosophy. Distinguishing between pleasure and happiness. Stoics recognized the distinction between pleasure and happiness. Pleasure, they argued, was a fleeting and often unreliable source of satisfaction, while happiness was a more enduring state of being. The Stoics believed that the pursuit of pleasure could lead to attachment, dependence, and ultimately, suffering. However, they did not condemn pleasure outright. Instead, they advocated for a balanced approach, where one could enjoy the pleasures of life without becoming enslaved by them. The Stoics believed that by cultivating virtues like self-discipline, moderation, and equanimity, individuals could experience pleasure without it dominating their lives. The Stoic approach to pleasure. The Stoic approach to pleasure can be summarized as follows. Moderation. The Stoics encourage moderation in all things, including the pursuit of pleasure. They believe that excessive indulgence in pleasure could lead to addiction, neglect of one's duties, and a loss of control. Detachment. Stoics sought to cultivate a sense of detachment from external circumstances, including the attainment of pleasure. They recognized that pleasure was often fleeting and could not be relied upon as a permanent source of happiness. Focus on virtue. The Stoics placed a greater emphasis on the development of virtues, such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, as the path to true happiness. They believed that by aligning one's actions with these virtues, one could find a more lasting and fulfilling sense of well-being. Acceptance of fate. Stoics embraced the idea of accepting one's fate and the natural order of the universe. This included accepting both the pleasant and unpleasant aspects of life, without becoming overly attached to or averse to them, integrating pleasure and virtue. While the Stoics did not advocate for the pursuit of pleasure as the primary goal in life, they recognized that pleasure could be a part of a well-lived life when it was experienced in moderation and in harmony with one's virtues. The Stoics believed that by cultivating a sense of self-control and detachment, individuals could enjoy the pleasures of life without becoming enslaved by them. In this way, the Stoic approach to pleasure was not about the complete avoidance of enjoyment, but rather the integration of pleasure with the pursuit of virtue and a deeper sense of meaning and purpose. By balancing the experience of pleasure with the cultivation of wisdom, courage, and equanimity, the Stoics believed that individuals could find a more sustainable and fulfilling path to happiness. Moderation and temperance in Stoic philosophy. The pursuit of equilibrium. Stoic principles of moderation and temperance. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies the pursuit of a life in harmony with nature and the attainment of inner tranquility. This harmonious existence is achieved through the careful cultivation of virtues, chief among them the principles of moderation and temperance. Stoics believe that the key to a fulfilled and virtuous life lies in the ability to exercise control over one's desires, emotions, and actions. Defining moderation and temperance in Stoic thought. Moderation, in Stoic philosophy, is the ability to maintain a balanced and measured approach to life. It is the recognition that excess, whether in pleasure or pain, is detrimental to one's well-being. Stoics believe that true happiness and fulfillment could only be found in the middle ground, where one avoids the extremes of indulgence and austerity. Temperance, on the other hand, is the ability to exercise self-control and discipline, refraining from the pursuit of fleeting and often harmful pleasures. The role of reason and self-mastery. Stoics placed a strong emphasis on the power of reason as the guiding principle in life. They believed that by cultivating a clear and rational mind, one could make wise choices and resist the impulses of the passions. Through the practice of self-reflection and the constant evaluation of one's actions, Stoics sought to develop a deep understanding of their own nature and the nature of the world around them. This self-mastery, in turn, allowed them to maintain a sense of equanimity and balance, even in the face of life's inevitable challenges. Moderation and temperance in daily life. The Stoic ideal of moderation and temperance manifested itself in various aspects of daily life. In the realm of consumption, Stoics advocated for a simple and frugal lifestyle, free from the burden of material excess. They believed that the pursuit of wealth and luxury often led to the neglect of more important virtues, such as compassion and wisdom. Similarly, Stoics were wary of the dangers of overindulgence in sensual pleasures, recognizing that true fulfillment could not be found in the fleeting gratification of the senses. Moderation in emotional expression. Stoics also applied the principles of moderation and temperance to their emotional lives. They recognized the power of the passions to disrupt the tranquility of the soul and sought to cultivate a calm and equanimous disposition. Through the practice of emotional self-control, Stoics aim to avoid the extremes of excessive joy, anger, or sorrow, instead striving for a balanced emotional state that would allow them to respond to life's challenges with clarity and resilience. The pursuit of the mean. Balancing extremes. The Stoic concept of the mean, or the golden mean, was central to their understanding of moderation and temperance. This idea, derived from the teachings of Aristotle, posits that the virtuous path lies not in the extremes, but in the balanced middle ground between two opposing vices. For example, courage is the mean between the vices of cowardice and recklessness, while generosity is the mean between the vices of miserliness and extravagance. By constantly seeking to find this equilibrium, Stoics believed they could live in harmony with the natural order and attain a sense of inner peace. The lasting legacy of Stoic moderation. The Stoic emphasis on moderation and temperance has had a lasting impact on Western philosophical and ethical thought. The principles of self-control, emotional equanimity, and the pursuit of the golden mean have continued to resonate with thinkers and individuals seeking to navigate the complexities of the human experience. As we navigate the challenges of the modern world, the Stoic teachings on the virtues of moderation and temperance offer a timeless wisdom that can guide us towards a more balanced and fulfilling existence. Stoic indifference and the avoidance of excess. Stoic indifference and the art of moderation. The Stoic philosophy emphasizes the pursuit of virtue and the attainment of inner tranquility, or ataraxia, through the cultivation of reason, self-control, and detachment from external circumstances. One of the central tenets of Stoicism is the idea of indifference, which is often misunderstood as a complete avoidance of pleasure and emotion. The Stoic approach to pleasure. Contrary to popular belief, Stoics do not entirely shun pleasure or seek to eliminate all enjoyment from their lives. Rather, they advocate for a balanced and moderate approach, where one appreciates the pleasures of life without becoming enslaved to them. Stoics recognize that pleasure is a natural and often unavoidable aspect of the human experience, but they believe that it should not be the sole or primary focus of one's pursuit. Avoiding excess and attachment. The Stoic perspective on pleasure is rooted in the idea of eudaimonia, which can be loosely translated as well-being or flourishing, but from the cultivation of virtue and the alignment of one's actions with reason and wisdom. They argue that excessive attachment to pleasure can lead to unhappiness, as it can distract individuals from their higher purpose and make them vulnerable to external circumstances. Moderation and self-regulation. Rather than completely avoiding pleasure, Stoics emphasize the importance of moderation and self-regulation. They believe that one should enjoy the pleasures of life in a measured and controlled way without becoming enslaved to them. This involves cultivating the ability to derive satisfaction from simple and everyday pleasures, while also maintaining a sense of detachment and equanimity in the face of life's ups and downs. The virtue of temperance. Stoicism places a strong emphasis on the virtue of temperance, which is the ability to exercise self-control and restraint in the face of temptation. Stoics believe that by practicing temperance, individuals can develop the capacity to enjoy the pleasures of life without being overwhelmed by them. This allows them to maintain their focus on the pursuit of virtue and the cultivation of inner tranquility. The importance of reason and wisdom. Central to the Stoic approach to pleasure is the belief that reason and wisdom should guide one's actions and choices. Stoics argue that by cultivating a deep understanding of the nature of reality and the human condition, individuals can develop the capacity to make wise and discerning decisions about how to engage with the pleasures of life. This involves being able to distinguish between what is truly valuable and what is merely a passing desire or impulse. The Stoic approach to pleasure is not one of complete avoidance or asceticism, but rather a balanced and moderate approach that emphasizes the cultivation of virtue, self-control, and inner tranquility. By practicing the principles of Stoicism, individuals can learn to appreciate the pleasures of life without becoming enslaved to them. and can instead focus their energies on the pursuit of a truly fulfilling and meaningful existence. Conclusion. In considering the Stoic perspective on pleasure, we uncover a nuanced and thoughtful approach to this fundamental aspect of the human experience. Stoicism, with its emphasis on virtue, moderation, and the cultivation of inner tranquility, offers a refreshing counterpoint to the relentless pursuit of pleasure that often characterizes modern society. The Stoics recognize that pleasure is not inherently good or bad, but rather that the virtue lies in our relationship to it. They advocated for a balanced and tempered approach, where pleasure is not to be rejected outright, but rather integrated into a life of wisdom and self-mastery. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, famously declared that it is not the things themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about these things. This insight speaks to the Stoic belief that it is our mental and emotional responses to pleasure, rather than pleasure itself, that can lead to imbalance and suffering. Stoicism's emphasis on the cultivation of contentment is particularly relevant in a world that often equates happiness with the relentless pursuit of pleasure and material acquisition. The Stoics recognize that true happiness is not found in the fleeting gratification of desire, but rather in the cultivation of inner peace, self-sufficiency, and a deep appreciation for the present moment. By embracing the concept of eudaimonia, a state of flourishing and well-being that transcends mere pleasure, the Stoics offered a vision of the good life that is both intellectually and emotionally compelling. The Stoic principle of indifference to external circumstances is not a call for apathy or disengagement, but rather a recognition that our true locus of control lies within. By cultivating a detachment from the vicissitudes of fortune, the Stoics believe that we can find the freedom to focus on what truly matters, the development of our own character and the pursuit of virtue. This approach offers a powerful antidote to the anxiety and restlessness that often accompany the endless chase after pleasure and material success. Ultimately, the Stoic perspective on pleasure invites us to reevaluate our relationship to this fundamental aspect of human existence. Rather than succumbing to the allure of instant gratification or the tyranny of societal expectations, the Stoics encourage us to develop a more nuanced and balanced approach, one that acknowledges the role of pleasure in a life well lived, but refuses to make it the sole or even primary focus. By embracing moderation, temperance, and the cultivation of contentment, we may just find that the path to true happiness and fulfillment lies not in the pursuit of pleasure, but in the cultivation of wisdom, virtue, and a deep sense of inner peace.